Queer Theory as Actualized Cartesianism by Seth Troutt, a pastor and scholar who argues, who makes a quite, you might say, a damning argument against Cartesianism or Descartes himself. And as the title suggests, it's quite a provocative title. Um, so we're going to talk about this. He makes some claims about Cartesianism that it kind of fits with the sort of, you might say, the slide today, enhanced by kind of technology into this kind of pluriform sense of identity as a kind of degreed, you might say, degreed reality. In other words, there is this degreed reality that's given to gender as a concept to individuals that reflects the kind of relativized or relativization of our cultural perceptions about gender, and the breakdown of the kind of binary, the old binary idea that humans are kind of at some level essentially either male or female, to this more pluralistic conception of gender identity that is predicated in some ways upon the internal ideas, emotions, basically the kind of internalized or subjectivized understanding of those ideas or of those realities, which he sees at some level as related to this kind of growing situation or understanding of gender as a kind of social construct itself, but a social construct that we can work with as communities that is ultimately determinative by the internal, the subjective, or what I think or feel that I am is what is determinative here. And so he sees this, Seth Troutt sees this as a kind of parallel to Descartes' dualistic picture of the human that he sees as kind of separating or dividing the reality of the person as a thinking thing, which is commonly expressed, and obviously Descartes uses that term, and the body as re extensa, or the extension, which becomes the primary property. These two things divide up the reality wherein, in light of this hierarchy that Descartes affirms, the soul is higher, more real, so on and so forth by degree, and makes determinate the lower reality, of which the body is, and is less real. And as a result, he argues in various places and ways, less important or less vital or less relevant to the nature of identity itself. He makes a strong metaphysical claim from it that your body isn't you, it's a container of you. The most you part of you is your thoughts, not your body. And he says, well, this is clearly wrong because any view of the person must be more than this. It must include the body ethically. It must include the body functionally. Those are all really radical jumps, though, jumps of inferences from his epistemology, Descartes, and arguably, he doesn't spell out the ontology, but arguably from Descartes' ontology. So this is already from the beginning not on a good footing. It's not a good start to an actual argument, whether it's a popular article or an academic article. Now, on the other hand, Trout's article reflects certain common patterns with certain circles that will be attracted to some of the things he's saying, that will be kind of attracted or find appealing, when he argues that there are certain quote unquote connections, he says, connections between Descartes' view and modern day LGBT, queer theory, uh, visions or perspectives on the nature of gender and sexuality. There are certain quote unquote connections, but and he uses that word connection pretty early on. In fact, in the uh, third, I believe it's the third page, he uses the word connections. And so he says there are these connections, which he goes on to expound upon between the two. So, yeah, so it's interesting that he makes this sort of argument. It's not that this argument uh, hasn't, this sort of argument hasn't been around as an objection to Descartes, and that it hasn't found some sort of popular footing in some popular discussions, and maybe even certain academic exercises in sociology or psychology that treat Rene Descartes as the kind of whipping boy in all academic disciplines. Certainly there is that, and he's certainly picking up on that. And at first read, he's saying it in a way that at least lends itself to some sort of credibility, as he's apparently an authority, but also, yeah, I mean, he writes in a kind of charming way initially. But then upon the second read, at least my second read, I saw, no, this is not only problematic, it's severely problematic in terms of the development of the argument itself.